All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here and for attending all these talks. It's been a really, really interesting day. So I'd like just to start by thanking the organizers and my fellow presenters as well for what's been a really great list of presentations this morning. So we're going to be talking about how to unlock revenue when you choose a conversational AI. And I think to get started, I will change the slide if I can. Hold on just one sec. There we go. To get started, let me just introduce iovox to let you know a little bit about who we are. So iovox is a call tracking and conversational analytics company. Since day one, we've been working with large brands across the world to provide them with trackable phone numbers and data about their business. iovox is a tier 1 carrier in multiple countries. This basically means that we are able to provide the highest quality services in the market out there. And our team is constantly working to innovate with new products and new ideas in reaction to industry trends and the feedback that we receive from our customers across marketplaces and classifieds. And ideally, for iovox, our main purpose is to provide reliable and actionable information for businesses of all sizes. I'm going to stop there. That's all I'm going to say about iovox, because I know that you guys aren't really here to listen to information about companies like mine. You guys are really here to listen to information about companies like yours, companies like Idealista or Zoopla, major players in the real estate space. Or maybe you're interested in companies like Autotrader or La Centrale, globally recognized car portals. These are companies that we're already working with. We're working with them to help them unlock revenue, and we're doing that using one specific approach. So how are we doing this? For us to look at this in a little bit more detail, I think it's going to be helpful if we just take a moment to imagine that I am the CEO of a marketplace, IO Marketplace. I spent a long time on the name. So IO Marketplace, we are not the market leaders, but we are in the top 5. So I know this is a little bit conceptual. I'm asking you to imagine something, but just go with me on this one, because you may actually find a few similarities in your own cases. So we're not the market leader, but we are in the top 5. We've got a decent quantity of web visitors who come to our website to have a look at the listings that we have available. There's a range of channels available to those consumers who want to take the step to contact one of the advertisers about a specific listing. And we're already tracking our calls, so we know that for us, the phone represents 40% of this kind of activity. I've got a decent quantity of subscribers who use my site, and these ones are paying to list with us. However, for me, at IO Marketplace, I'm striving for more. I want more listings, more subscribers, and crucially, more revenue. So I'm going to ask myself a few questions now. How am I going to achieve this ultimate new extra revenue that I want to get? So I'm going to ask myself questions like, how do I know the quality of the leads that I'm delivering to my agents? And how can I use that data that I already have to decisively prove ROI? How well are my subscribers' teams even handling the incoming phone inquiries that I'm sending their way through my site? And I know I'm tracking my calls, but what's actually happening on those inbound phone leads? And lastly, how can I analyze my calls at scale without escalating costs? So you may already know that for marketplaces, 30 to 60% of all inbound leads come through the phone. For me at IO Marketplace, that feels like far too big a percentage just to leave those leads without understanding what kind of quality they're actually delivering. In addition to that, I'm sure that you guys know that the transaction of buying a new house or buying a new car is no longer one simple action. It triggers a whole lot of additional steps in that process. For example, I'm buying a house, therefore do I have a house to sell? Do I represent a vendor lead for my agent? Do I need a mortgage? Do I need help with relocation, with utilities, all of that kind of stuff? So we're looking at a user journey here, which is much more than just buying a new house. As a marketplace, I want to know what role I am playing in that. I need to know the data about these consumers and what they're actually going to do next. What do they represent as value for my agents or for my subscribers? If we look further from the subscriber's point of view, quantity is no longer a good enough metric to deliver to them. Telling an agent, oh, I've delivered you 20 leads this week, here they all are. Well, how many times have you been told by a real estate agent or a car dealer, those 20 leads that you delivered to me, they weren't exactly hot leads. I couldn't really make a conversion on those. So for me at IO Marketplace, understanding the quality of my leads is the absolute key to future-proofing my value proposition, differentiating myself from my competitors, and also for maintaining and growing my own subscriber base. What's more, how on earth do I know how many missed opportunities there are in the calls that I'm delivering to my agents and my subscribers for additional services, those additional revenue streams that I mentioned just now? Well, iovox knows, and we can tell you. So let me take a look. All of this sounds really great, this utopian view of understanding everything. How are we actually going to achieve that? Well, we're going to do it with iovox Insights. So iovox Insights is a conversational AI service. It converts a recorded phone call into searchable text that can be analyzed and assessed in line with what is important for your business. So whether you are automatically tracking your calls in iovox and running them through Insights straight away, or whether you are already recording calls in another system. Perhaps you have another call tracking system set up in your system, which you want to then share with us those recordings, and we can run insights on those as well. If you decide to use iovox Insights, you are basically lifting the lid on everything that's happening in your phone leads, inbound phone leads through your website, and making that content as searchable as the other methods of contact that come through the site. For example, emails, form fills, chats, that kind of thing. Stereotypically, normally, when you're talking about a method of contact which is not site-based, as soon as that contact leaves the site scenario, you completely lose visibility. Here, you're getting that visibility, and you're getting the data that is inside those phone leads. So how does it actually work? Let me just explain. So iovox Insights auto-transcribes recorded calls, and it picks out particular keywords or phrases using conversational AI and machine learning to basically deliver you an analysis at scale that will help you to spot trends and predict outcomes in your phone calls. So when I'm using Insights at IO Marketplace, I can work with the iovox team to establish what the keyword rules that are most important for me are, i.e., for me, what does success actually look like? If I want to know if a call has been successful or valuable, what is that value? So I work with iovox to establish that, and I also can get my team to be involved. So they will participate in this training. And so in the future, if I have a new area of focus, my team can get started building a keyword model which will provide the data that I'm looking for. I can set up alerts so that if I've established that a call has a particularly hot lead in there, say, for example, somebody calling to make an offer on a $5 million property, I can send an alert through to the sales team of my subscriber to say, hi, this is a really hot lead. Just to let you know, this call was a high-value one. You might want to call that guy back and ask whether or not he wants to continue that conversation further. I can tag call outcomes, so I'll be basically labeling them with the outcome of that call so that my data team, when they're looking in the information either in the iovox Insights portal or via the API, they can basically group aggregated data to understand which percentage have got high value and which of those have potentially got less of a value. So, benefits for IO Marketplace. When we've run sample data, we can see that on average, every single phone call presents 6 opportunities. So let's just see what kind of opportunities that they might be. We'll look at 2 main areas. The first is lead quality. So by using insights, I can basically understand, just at a glance, how many calls represented a tangible likelihood of a conversion for my subscriber. Therefore, this would be something like a viewing for a property or a test drive for a car, that kind of thing. I can identify whether the call included a discussion which indicated a vendor lead, for example. Somebody has something to sell. Or maybe they're letting out a property and they want to become a landlord. Or maybe they're asking for a quote because they want to sell their car when they buy a new one. I can also see if there was an opportunity there for a complementary service, perhaps an in-house mortgage service for my estate agent or car financing for an automotive dealer. I can also get some interesting information around what consumers are actually looking for when they're looking for new properties or cars. So what are the main areas of interest? Maybe it's EVs, for example, and therefore I can help kind of use that data to inform my automotive dealers. EVs are a big thing. I think this is something that you should investigate because 45% of the calls, they're mentioning EVs. That kind of thing. And it's exactly that kind of data that puts you in a fantastic position with your subscribers, because you can basically provide them this transparency on the incoming leads that are being generated specifically for them. And you can have open and honest conversations about what the value of these leads actually is, and also change your relationship just from paid listing provider to a valued partner in which you help to guide them to make decisions, to plan their strategy. And you do this in a way that also benefits you as a portal, and at the same time getting all of the data from those phone calls for your own analysis as well. The second area is call handling. So with call handling, this not only opens up a huge amount of interesting data, this is data that subscribers' teams are going to pay for. Just evaluating the performance of their teams and working out how well they are dealing with inbound inquiries is something that is going to be of huge interest because it is hard data. So this could help them with their team training, for example. You can compare the performance of different branches or even different agents. You can minimize the likelihood of a missed opportunity there. So if you know that there is somebody who's going to be selling a house, make sure that you mention mortgage services if you have your own in-house brokers, for example. You can optimize scripts and do that in a way that's going to encourage conversion. If you've got a call center, you can make sure that your agents are sticking to the script of your call center's established script, or you could change that to make it better or slightly different based on the information that you see. And all of that kind of ties into, did the consumer have a positive or a negative experience on the phone? When you actually feed this data back to people, so far the reaction has been amazing, because we find that a lot of the data we're presenting is quite different to what the people in head office, for example, had really thought was actually happening. You have branch managers saying, oh yes, it's going great, we're listening to all the phone calls, we're doing a lot of training on the phone, agents are really doing very, very well. And then you see the data and they think, oh, maybe they're not. So this is something that is, it actually is a huge area of interest. So let's just have a look, just for IO Marketplace. We're going back to those questions that I was asking myself at the beginning of how am I going to make my revenue, my additional revenue. Let's just have a look at what insights is actually delivered. So right now, I have a full analysis at scale for a fraction of the cost of having to outsource that call listening, or even asking my internal team to take on a very long and laborious task. Trust me, I've listened to a lot of calls, and it takes a very long time. So I've got that at scale with insights, and because it's an AI service, it's all machine-based. So I have that level of confidentiality as well, that it hasn't had to go through a human in order to get the data out that we want to see. So I've now got visibility on everything that's happening in my phone leads, and that means that I can make it as searchable as those other sources, other channels that I've got, like email and chat on my website. I now know that in 5% of the calls, consumers are just calling to ask for the opening times of my automotive dealer. However, in 70% of the calls, they are calling to discuss a test drive or a viewing for a high-value ticket item. So with all of this data, I'm basically in a position where I now can prove decisively my value to subscribers as a marketplace, and I can justify the fees that I am charging as my subscription fees, and give myself the opportunity to increase them if I wish. But if I'm talking about new subscribers, I'm pitching to new subscribers, new agents, new car dealers, wanting them to sign up with us, it's a reasonably easy choice, surely, to be faced with a marketplace who's offering you, yes, you can have multiple channels, and yes, I will tell you full data across all of these channels, what's actually happening with your inbound leads through my site. And this is not only valuable, that's not the only valuable information you're giving to your subscribers, you're also giving them a commentary on their internal performance. So I'm going to tell you how well I'm going to be doing, but I'll also tell you how well your teams are doing. So you can help them identify upsells. You can help them minimize missed opportunities. And you can basically provide them all of this information just by taking something that you already have. I'm already tracking my calls. And all I'm doing is I'm just adding this one additional thing on top, which is running them through insights. So if I want to, I can then monetize these additional services, these additional revenue streams, and say, OK, I delivered you 20 leads for vendor leads. This means I know you're going to make some cash out of those. So let's talk about doing a split, shall we? All of this information I'm getting for just a few cents per minute of transcribing and running my calls through insights. So that's enough of the theoretical. Thank you for indulging me in that little imagination that I was in our marketplace. Let me show you some actual, real data from customers of iovox. So we worked with one US-based marketplace who had no idea the value of the leads that they were delivering via the phone. They had no idea. In fact, they started by saying, we think 50% of our calls are probably spam. Well, 82% of calls have a callback schedule. These are handled by a call center, and the idea is to schedule a callback or to get an in-person meeting. So you've got 82% have a callback scheduled, 47.8% have an in-person visit as the result of the call, and 41% of calls are for high-value items that represent serious additional revenue for their subscribers. So although they thought 50% of their calls were spam, actually they were delivering some serious value. A UK property portal ran an analysis through insights for one of their main agents, a UK-based real estate agent, and they believed they were doing very, very well. They were told that their agents were handling calls really, really well, that they were making the best out of the opportunities in those calls. Well, unfortunately, they were proved that was rather wrong. So in only 38% of the calls did the agent actually introduce the company that they work for. So they were just responding with their name. In 6% of the calls, it was established that the consumer was somebody who would be looking to buy with a mortgage. So he was a mortgage buyer, or he or she was a mortgage buyer, and therefore was going to need that. However, only 3% of the calls, 3% of the calls did the agent actually volunteer or suggest or promote their own in-house mortgage services. So obviously that is quite shocking. It was a real surprise for the property portal, or for the property agent in question, and it actually caused them to completely overhaul their agent training. So, thank you very much for listening to that. Thank you for indulging me a little bit in imagining that. And I hope that you found some similarities there in the problems and the questions that you're faced with about understanding a little bit more about that value and getting that critical data, which is completing the picture now that marketplaces are playing in. And if it seems like something that could be interesting for you, I would encourage you wholeheartedly to take advantage of the offer that we have. It's a slightly unusual offer in that you don't actually need to have a contract with iovox, and you don't need to track your calls with iovox. We know that there are opportunities there in your phone calls, and we want to show you. So all you have to do is to give us 1,000 call recordings, send them over to iovox. We will run insights on them, and we will show you with your own eyes the data of your own inbound phone leads, because there is a huge amount of value there, and hopefully you'll join us in finding it. Thanks very much.